How long
Right?
can they go on? But we've been asking that question for years.
It's honestly though.
Bitch, weather's unpredictable. Like, fighting game fans in general love their games, but hate their bodies.
Welcome everybody to.
I just wanted to see how long I could hold the silence for.
Welcome everyone to Off the Air. I'm Noah. With me today
I'm
is
Jackson.
Yep, with me today is Jackson. We do not have Dan. We decided,
Dan.
you know what? Dan is canceled.
Sucks.
He sucks.
He's canceled, sisters.
Gone.
Yeah, that's the one. So I have a cold open now that we're warmed up.
Oh, there we go. Let's cool things back down.
you ever do some math in school and you plug in the wrong formula, but you get the right answer?
Yeah.
I think Sigmund Freud did that.
Okay.
Because the answer was MILFs, but he plugged in the formula of his own mom. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, like, he was onto something when he said people wanted to bang moms. He just missed the target by taking it and being like, their own. Like, nah. You had it in the start.
His whole theory says way more about himself than it does about other people.
It's true. Also, he was half right. People want to bang moms. It's just true.
Well, there you go, man.
And speaking of MILFs, this wasn't even part of my cold open. I just am reminded, the MILF Lord himself, Young Gravy, put out an album like last week.
I'm sorry, who?
Young Gravy.
I'll be honest.
I guarantee your sister knows about Young Gravy. I'm actually gonna message her. She's on League right now. Do you know about Young Gravy? Okay. He's like a kind of comedy rapper where he talks a lot about MILFs.
Of course he does.
That's like his niche is like he's in with the MILFs. And he put out an album. It's pretty good. It's pretty neat. There's a lot of good tracks on it. Whip a Tesla is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of a fan.
Let's see. Yeah,
I messaged Edge. I don't.
Gravy. There he is. Oh, he's white. Okay, this makes sense.
Yeah, no, he's from like Minnesota.
One thought, two thought, red thought, blue
red thought, blue thought. Gravy so cold, bitch. I think I need a flu shot. He's great. And speaking of albums that came out recently, Carly Rae Jepsen, new album. It's great.
Yeah, when did that come out?
I don't know the exact date.
Let me Google it while you tell me when it came.
Wait, hold up. Wait, let me guess though. May 14th.
Oh, you're so close. It was May 17th.
I knew it was that weekend. I was pretty close though. It's good. I'm a huge Carly Rae Jepsen fan, as I think I've said before on the podcast.
I don't think I've listened to this album yet.
And it's only a couple weeks old. Well, it's like a month old now, but still.
That's fair. It's
real good. Too Much is my current banger, but I think my favorite track off the album is No Drug Like Me. They're pretty much all bops. There's no bad songs on it, but those two are the ones I've been banging to the most.
That's actually really good to hear. That makes me happy.
You know, I love Carly Rae Jepsen. Like, her 2015 album Emotion is it's at least top 5 favorite albums of all time. Contender for number 1 though.
Really?
I adore it. Like, every song, every time it comes on, like, I almost never skip them.
Huh. You know what? I respect that.
This is 4 years later.
If an album can stand that kind of test of time, you know it has to at least be pretty good.
Yeah, it's definitely a bop. I think she's really slept on because people just write her off as the girl who wrote Call Me Maybe.
Oh, yeah, you know what? That sounds about right.
And Call Me Maybe is not even on that album. That was from an earlier album.
I remember so many people trash talking Call Me Maybe way back when.
It was just like a I don't think silly
anybody
song.
A lot of the people at the youth group we went to, I remember a few people that liked it. I remember a certain friend of mine only claiming to like it because he liked one of the girls that liked it. And
nice.
Class act, you know?
Also, if I may, Call Me Maybe, I think not only was it released not far away from the Twilight era, but it had the same effect where it was incredibly polarizing. Nobody was like, yeah, Call Me Maybe's okay. Everyone was like, oh my god, I love it, it's so fun, or this is the dumbest thing ever, music's dead.
And that was a real popular opinion to throw around at the time too, since Bieber was coming out with all kinds of stuff right then. And can we agree that it's really nice that we're out of this thinking it's cool to hate Justin Bieber era?
I agree, but I don't like him.
Oh no, you don't have to like him, but I think
I'm glad
fine
we're
to
no
agree
longer
that we're past that.
Exactly. I can get behind that. No longer is he an incredibly polarizing figure.
Mm-hmm. Now I do remember
also
a few years ago.
Sorry,
Go
word
ahead.
from Edge. She
Yeah.
responded to my message, "Do you know about Young Gravy?" with "Absolutely love that dude."
Of course she does.
So it's on the record. Continue.
So back in 2015, when Bieber released his album Purpose, I remember hearing some of those songs, especially Love Yourself, the one that was written by Ed Sheeran.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking, you know what? I bet in like 3 years when this guy releases music, I'm actually going to be pretty into it. Because he had changed up enough from the Bieber that I was aware of back in like 2010 that, I was not against the possibility of actually enjoying what he put out.
I actually really liked and still really like Love Yourself.
Mm-hmm. Oh, me too. I think it gets a lot of crap for being one of like a song that's one of his because, people still like to hold on to the, Justin Bieber, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like the angsty, like 12-year-old boys who hated him because girls liked him.
Mm-hmm. Which I would say I didn't get, but at the same time, I definitely hopped on the hate train as well. So I guess I don't have a lot of room to talk.
I totally did when I was like 13.
Mm-hmm. I mean, why wouldn't you, right?
Exactly, yeah.
It was
if
the way
all
to
of
be
your
cool.
friends are all making fun of Justin Bieber and you don't really care one way or another, might as well start roasting some dude.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like if you're like dating someone and they're like, you have to hate this girl, and you're like, all right, I guess I do now.
Like, I've managed to avoid that problem so far, but I feel where you're coming from.
I have also, for the most part, avoided that because I've only ever dated like one person for a long period of time, and she was very mellow.
Mm-hmm.
So she was never like, you have to hate this girl. She was always like, whatever, I don't care.
Is it the girl that I knew?
I understand the
or
principle.
Someone else?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
She always seemed super mellow.
Yeah, she's a nice kid.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like 17, so I guess I say kid, which is weird because I think she's slightly older than me, but because I haven't seen her in like 5 years.
She just kind of stopped then.
Like in my brain, she's still like 18.
Mm-hmm. No, I definitely get that. I've thought
Same
that
with
about
like
a great many
a lot
people.
of those people we were talking, you're talking about like people who went to youth group when we were younger. They exist to me forever in my brain at like 15.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they never. Well, sometimes literally they never grew up. And they're just like the same people they were then. And other times
we're thinking of the same
just,
guy right now. It's okay.
We are. And then other times it's only they figuratively never. You know what I mean? That analogy fell apart. But we're both talking about the same guy.
Yeah, for sure. So youth group, new albums. Both of these things to me peak during summer. So you got your summer jams.
Mm-hmm.
Which is Carly Rae Jepsen album is surely going to be. And same with Young Gravy. And then also I remember a lot of the most fun memories I have from youth group were doing stuff like sand volleyball and just like hanging out and going out to eat in like the summer when nobody had school the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So those are always like my memories. It's very, very fun during the summer. And I'm getting in a summer mood. And here to help me with that today is a refreshing beverage. It's a beer. It's Jackson's Beer Corner. The beer for today is Hell or High Watermelon.
Oh my gosh, I love the name. Even though I feel like I might not like a watermelon beer, that's a great name. It is a
watermelon wheat beer. So the closest thing I can compare it to that's like a big domestic would be Blue Moon. Blue Moon is a orange wheat beer with Valencia orange peel. This is a wheat beer as well, but it uses watermelon where Blue Moon uses orange. It's a beer that pairs really well with fruit flavors and really well with like citrus especially, but other fruit works fine. Cherry is pretty popular, blueberry as well as watermelon in this case. It is also my favorite kind of beer. Wheat beers are my go-to. Mm-hmm. They're easy drinking, they're refreshing, and they pair well with flavors that I like.
Oh, for sure. Honestly, they pair well with almost everything, I feel like, because a lot of them are a light enough flavor that they can just be kind of refreshing.
Yeah, you can get a wheat beer in a lot of varieties. I typically spin towards the fruit ones because they're easier to get, and they're also just a really good pairing, especially on like a hot summer day, like it's trying to get to be in. I think it was like 85 the other day. That was pretty warm.
Mm-hmm.
So Hell or High Watermelon is by 21st Amendment Brewery, which is, I believe, New York, but let me check and see. Utica, New York. Made famous from being referenced in The Office as to where Jim's girlfriend Karen, played by Rashida Jones, goes to work. I only know that because I absolutely adore her as a person. She's my favorite.
Really?
Yeah, she's great.
More you know.
But Hell or High Watermelon wheat beer, Super good. It's 4.9% and 17 IBUs. So it's not very hoppy, which is one of the things I like about wheat beer. It's not hoppy, it's not dry. It's nice and juicy, and the watermelon is definitely a forward flavor.
Nice.
So Hell or High Watermelon, give it a try. It's available throughout much of the East Coast, especially towards the north side of things. If you live in the area, know what I live in, it's available at Wegmans. You could probably get it at most anywhere you can get craft beer, though. Which, that's something else about moving. I don't know if I mentioned as much, but the beer selections it's night and day. They're totally different.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's different breweries, different areas. I mean, obviously, because most small breweries don't ship nationwide. So
right.
It's kind of fun to have a totally different beer scene.
Yeah, I guess I hadn't really thought about that. Nice.
So that is our beer for the week. And summer things, like I was mentioning earlier, always been not my favorite season. Aesthetically, I'm a fall boy. And now that I'm out of school, summer doesn't necessarily pull me in as strong. But I still love summer. And, living like we do so close to Lake Erie, there's so many more things to do in the summer when the weather's nice. And for whatever reason, summers to me are for fighting games. Not necessarily like outside sports, which you'd think like, winter and stuff like that would be more for indoor stuff. But for whatever reason, fighting games to me are always big during the summer. I think it's probably because you get that big hype train going up to EVO. And then after EVO, you get that big hype train where everyone's playing the games again. Everyone's like getting more into it and everyone's like around the culture and the community just because they're like riding that high. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how much you know or involve yourself with fighting games. But
to a point,
I've been learning Street Fighter.
Oh, nice.
I got it for 20. It's $20 for Street Fighter 5 Arcade Edition. So it's kind of like you might as well. I've got Tekken. I play Guilty Gear is still my favorite, but Street Fighter is the one with the most pull. It's the one you can play at most any arcade, even like Chuck E. Cheese. Mm-hmm. So I figured for $20 I might as well get it and learn it. That way, I can show off in a more readily available environment. Because I have never once entered an area where I've been able to play Guilty Gear to look cool. And I don't think I ever will.
You know what? That sounds incredibly fair.
But I know there are several times in my life where I've played Street Fighter with friends, just at arcades and stuff, and just got my ass handed to me because I don't know how to play the game. But now I'm learning, and it's pretty fun.
Nice.
Also, I play the character Manat, who uses a crystal ball for like a zoning tool. Because when it comes to fighting games, I've always been a fan of zoning characters. Like in Guilty Gear, I play Ramlethal, who has like swords that she throws out and like laser beams and whatnot. And in Street Fighter, I've been playing Manat, who uses balls to like extend her combo, and they're like these like crystal balls and magic orbs.
Oh, neat!
And
I've never seen this character.
She's pretty cool. She's not unpopular. She's pretty high tier. She's not like number 1 or anything, but she might be like top 10 characters.
Mm-hmm. I mean, seeing some of these costumes, I can see why people might bump her up in the tiers.
Yeah, yeah, she's pretty cool. Like she's from Egypt, and I am a fan of her playstyle and her appearance too. I think she looks really cool.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Because Street Fighter really owns up to just being like, hey, how many national stereotypes can we fit into every character?
They really do, though, don't they?
I love it. Like Guile, he's just American flag tattooed on his arm, wearing a cutoff, and has like an incredible Hank Hill haircut.
It's
like he's got the
flattest
highest
flat top I've ever seen,
and flattest flat top. I love the Street Fighter characters. Like honestly, they just go
like it only gets worse the more like advanced the graphics get. Because like originally, it was a ridiculous haircut, but now seeing it actually like 3D rendered with like you can see the hair, that's horrifying.
Guile hair physics. It's just it's so funny to me how over the top they go. Like the Russian girl Colin, she's just has like the cheapest Russian accent, wears like all winter clothing, uses ice as a weapon, and just says things like "comrade." It's just beautiful. It's so silly. I don't know. I like Street Fighter though. It's not my favorite, but it's playable, and it's got a lot of players online, which really is helpful to learning any game.
Yeah, no, for sure. If you don't have an active like player base, it's just not fun to get into. And
like Guilty Gear, as much as I love it, the only time you can ever play with people is if you already have like the 300 players that still play in North America, if you have any of them added, and then you can play with them. But they're all, at this point, they've all been playing since like 2003. So they're all so good that like I'm pretty good at it. But, like I don't have fun. I can like consistently just beat bots on their hardest difficulty. And like it's not really fun to do that anymore for me. But I also can't even come close to beating anyone
right
online. So it's like I'm like a shitty middle ground where like I am as good as I can be without knowing these people, because just like scrimming against them isn't good enough to like make you a better player unless you know them and talk to them and get advice. You know, just like randomly joining a lobby and just getting the shit kicked out of you for 2 hours. Like it helps a little bit, but it doesn't bring you anywhere near as close as you need to be. So
yeah, for sure. Hey, but at least you can beat the top level bots.
It's true. At least I can beat the top level bots. Something I cannot even get close to doing on Street Fighter yet, but that's okay. It's a process.
That's one of my big issues with Smash is that I can't always beat the top level bots because I'm just not good at the game. I love the game. It's a good time, but I'm not good at it.
Yeah.
As is highlighted anytime I used to play with Brian and Emma, they both just would trounce me endlessly, and it would be like a battle between us three, and then one other person would actually just be like Brian and Emma trading top spot while we each, me and the other guy would each fight one of them to try and get it, which, you know, good time, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like Smash well enough, but it just like... I only ever play it when I'm at like I don't play it by myself. I only ever play it like if other people are playing or if I'm like at a party. Because it like, I mean, I get it. It is a fighting game, but it also like has a big party game appeal. And then when you're playing it like that, if you're in a 4 like man free for all, you don't really get that much better because it's just kind of a smash fest. Everyone's just like going ham on each other.
Right.
Whereas like fighting games force like Street Fighter and whatnot force like that 2D perspective that's always 1v1. But I mean, I like Smash a lot. It's probably my favorite to watch out of any esport. Like, I'm still a huge Melee fan. Speaking of which, my man Wizrobe, who I've been out here repping for, my actual son Wizrobe, has beaten the best player in the world, Hungrybox, at Melee. Not once, but 2 times. He sent him to loser's bracket, and then he met him again in the grand finals and beat him again.
Well, good for him. Freaking heck.
Yeah, he won the entire tournament without ever getting sent to loser's bracket. And he was playing Captain Falcon. That is the first time Captain Falcon has won a Super Major since 2005, I want to say.
Wait, really?
It was 2007.
Why?
Yeah, no, Captain Falcon is not that good.
Oh. Huh.
Every major has been won, for the most part, by Fox.
Pikachu, right? Oh, Fox.
Yeah, Fox.
That sucks.
With the occasional, if Armada was there, he'd win it with Peach. And if Hungrybox is there, he wins it with Jigglypuff. But a majority of it's Fox, and occasionally a Falco, and then Peach and Jigglypuff. And no one else, really.
I thought Pikachu was the Melee meta.
No, Pikachu is the only my man Axe, or AKA
that's right.
Walgreens Drake.
Yeah, you were talking about Walgreens Drake. I remember him now.
I love Walgreens Drake. He is probably one of the nicest Smash players. And he has the most magical friendship with the biggest Japanese player in the Melee scene named Amsa. So it's this guy from Japan named Amsa and this dude from Arizona named Axe, and they just have this pure and happy friendship. And like they always like do doubles and like they always like fly over and like stream with each other and stuff. It's wholesome. Also, they were in like a winners final set, and they were like going at it, and they were both at like 3 stocks, 69%, and they both stopped and taunted, and they just resumed playing.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, no, they're both good boys. I like Melee. I know it gets a lot of flack, and the fans are definitely half the reason it gets so much flack. But I
believe we talked about them before. You know, the sweaty guys that never shower.
Because if you talk about Melee, you have to talk about the fans, because people are very quick to be like Melee fans, and yeah, they're pretty shitty. But yeah, there's good ones out there, and the players themselves are usually pretty good people. But I think the Melee fan thing can be spread with most any like FGC, which if you're not aware is a fighting game community. Like branch, like Street Fighter fans, they're the same as the Melee fans. They're just like sweaty dudes who don't shower. Like fighting game fans in general love their games, but hate their bodies. Like you're like, they really love Street Fighter. Like they'll tell you about Manat's 4-frame crouching jab, but then they're not gonna eat anything that they should be putting in their body nutrient wise.
Yeah, it's all Mountain Dew and Cheetos. Not to, feed into the stereotype, but at the same time, that one's accurate.
Yeah, and obviously that's not the majority of them.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably like 30% are like that. The other 70 are different levels of normal people, with some that are extreme in a good way. But, there's always like a 30% is a big enough that it does become a stereotype, and it does show when you're watching tournaments and when you're at tournaments. But I guess, as long as they love the game, they're all brought together for the same reason. And that's what I love about the fighting game communities. Because you go there and like you know, you ever go to a tournament or ever just like watch a tournament, it just is a really good escape. It's kind of like I see it similar to how people golf. Like you'll golf on a Saturday. You don't necessarily care about winning. You're trying to get out of the house for 10 hours and do something that's kind of, you know, you just do that. Like if you're going to a fighting game tournament or if you're spectating one, you just watch. Like you don't think about politics. You don't run numbers on your checking account. You just like, I'm just here to do something I love. So I don't know. I like it for that reason.
Mm-hmm. No, I can respect that.
And this beer is very good. Hell or High Watermelon.
Hell or High Watermelon. I really do want to try that. I'm going to try and make an effort to do that.
Yeah, you can grab it. Most like supermarkets, like that'll sell beer. I think Sheetz has it. Wegmans has it. Most of your like beer distributors and stuff won't, but
good to know.
The restaurant I work at has it actually.
Sells beer now. Good deal.
So if you come, that's how I got turned on to it. That's how I heard about it. So if you come to the restaurant I work at, we have this beer.
I mean, I definitely need to visit the restaurant you work at in general because
I think I'm like an hour away from you though.
Well, yeah. I've done dumber things before though.
That's true. Corey to Conneaut is quite the drive.
Very true. Very true.
Actually, let me just look up on my phone real quick. I threw my phone on my bed so I wouldn't vibrate when I was recording. Let me find it.
All right.
Okay. So Corey to Conneaut, like they're very far. Unless you want to move to Conneaut, but you know.
I mean, not gonna lie, it's incredibly tempting.
Just there's definitely jobs. Welcome to Off the Air, the only podcast where well, it's probably not the only podcast where co-hosts try and convince each other to live with each other.
See, my only issue is
own a house.
I feel like I wouldn't want to get into cutting hair in another city because it was stress. Like, as someone who does not greatly enjoy social interaction, it was stressful enough to start a job where I was the second employee with a guy I've never met in a town I've never liked.
That's the thing. I am in exactly the same boat. I am bartending at a restaurant that's been open for about 2 years. I'm the only male employee.
Really?
And yeah, there's like a couple male like cooks that'll come in the mornings and like dishwashers. But I'm the only male front of house employee, and it's in a town that I always made fun of growing up. Like in high school, we called kids from Conneaut. We called them Conneaut creatures.
Oh my god!
And now I like live there, like downtown. I'm like, oh boy,
it's really funny. I used to tell people. Well, I tried not to tell anyone from Corey, but my brother and I would always joke about like Corey because his band was like out in this general area, and I just remember sitting around and joking about Corey being nothing but meth and teen pregnancies because.
Yeah, we made the same jokes about Conneaut.
That's all that it was. But then I moved out here and I'm like, I can't make comments about like one traffic light towns anymore because I'm surrounded by them.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Honestly, I like Conneaut. I like the town I'm living in. But it just, you know, it's just funny that I was making fun of it my whole life. And now like I'm just there and, you know, you make the best of it. 90% of my life is on the internet anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Honestly, though. See, that's kind of like my take on it as well, is like, I don't have to interact with most of the people around here, and I don't. And that makes me happy.
See, I have to interact with quite a few people, though, just because bartending.
Oh, yeah.
They're all like, you know, they've all been in the town their whole life. They're like, oh, so how do you like town? I'm like, oh, it's great. So much to do. Moved from a city of 1 million people. But again, I didn't do anything in Austin. I just get to talk like I did now that I'm not there anymore. Also, like where I'm living to where you're living, 1 hour and 9 minutes.
Well, that's not bad at all.
Yeah, but it's like worse than it needs to be. Although Erie is a halfway point, so we can always like meet up in Erie and stuff.
This is true.
That's up.
Speaking of, we definitely should get together and watch
Godzilla.
Yes, because I've just heard too many good things about it for it to not be a good time.
Yeah, I'm expecting a good time because I'm expecting a monster movie, so I can't imagine it'll go too bad. Have I talked at all about my desire to get a dog on the podcast?
A little bit.
All right. Well, that's still an ever-going search. I need to get a lot of like work done on the house still. Like it's such a long process. So I don't really want to get a dog and be like doing housework at the same time because a lot of dust and stuff. I don't want to get the dog all like So I don't know though. I'm definitely open to suggestions. My main idea right now is I was just gonna go to a shelter and adopt one. But I'm thinking if I'm gonna wait like 4 or 5 months, I might as well like try and contact a breeder.
Yeah.
And, you know, see if I can't get one through a breeder, like a reputable breeder. Obviously, no puppy mill stuff because that's
right. No, that's
heinous.
Bad people.
Although those are happily doing pretty bad these days. Don't get me wrong; they're not going out of business, but they are. Everyone is much more aware of like the disasters that take place at puppy mills.
You know, there's a lot of things that I do not like about social media and the way people like act about it.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I am happy about is like stuff like that, not really a thing anymore because of social media.
Exactly, because of like a public outcry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people can make a difference, comrade. Also, I was thinking about this today. You know, if like 200 people at any point in time decide to just do something, they pretty much can.
Honestly, though, yeah.
Like, because until like the National Guard gets called in, you have to. What are the cops gonna kill 200 people?
Yeah, that's not likely to happen.
So like, if 200 people decide that they just want to walk into Walmart and just grab everything and walk out, like they just can.
Yeah.
Like I was thinking about that because I was shopping earlier. I was getting groceries and I was like, if everyone in the store right now just walked out, like at most like 3 people would get caught.
Mm-hmm.
And out of what, like 70, 80 people? And then like driving, if everyone just went 90, what are the cops gonna do? Pull everybody over?
Yeah, that's actually a real big thing is well, I mean, you've driven on the interstate, you know that. Like there's always the fast lane, and if everyone's driving 80 miles and 90 miles an hour, I mean, the speed limit around here is averaged out at 55, so
Yeah.
you know, other people get to drive at nice 70. But around here it's 55 because people claim there's too many accidents. And I guarantee it's just because it's 55, but everyone still drives like a maniac.
I love my favorite thing about this area is, well, first of all, I feel like there are things, like what I'm about to say, that everyone just applies to every area. They're like, you know what they say about blank place that I live? Weather is so unpredictable. Bitch, weather's unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
You ever go somewhere when weather is predictable? You ever go somewhere and be like, it's going to be like this? Unless you're in Arizona, you don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
But like when I was in Texas, people were like, oh, you know, Texas weather, you can never it could change 30 degrees in a day. I'm like, yeah, that happens in so many places.
Does Texas do that? I thought that was just like a coastal thing or like people near like large bodies of water.
Nope.
Whack.
The weather be crazy everywhere.
Weather be shopping?
But everyone, weather be shopping. But everybody seems to think that their weather is like exceptionally crazy. Nah. Just like everyone tends to think that whatever state borders theirs has the worst drivers and the worst roads.
Mm-hmm.
Nah. But I will say, something I find funny, particularly about Pennsylvania, is my friend Dan, who was actually on the podcast at one point in time, put it this way. He was like, people are driving and they see a traffic cone and they go, oh, guess I'll kill myself. Like I was driving home on 90, the big highway, and there were 2 semi-trucks and an SUV in the ditch, not together, separately, on an 8-mile stretch where there was 3 miles of it in like traffic. All 3 of them had failed to brake and just ran themselves off the road, which is good. That means they didn't cause an accident. But what did you think was happening? Did you not see the road signs? 3 people, 2 of them being semis. And then when I got home, I looked up like the time to get back to Erie from where I live, and it was over an hour. Normally that drive is about 25, 30 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I don't get it. I see a cone, guess I'll kill myself, and they just run their car off the road.
See, I'm trying to find a fault in that statement, but it's not at all wrong. So
I'm trying to find The Fault in Our Stars on Blu-ray. Do you have it? I'm just trying to borrow it. Actually, show it to one of my
I'm going to use that to transition into talking about Aladdin for a minute. I know Dan's been talking a lot about Aladdin over the last few weeks.
I feel like that was the laziest form of transition.
Well, you were talking about a movie.
Hold on, hear me out.
Okay, go ahead.
Because at the start of the podcast, I transitioned like 3 different ways to go from like whatever I was talking about to summer. And you, I didn't just say, all right, I'm transitioning to summer. I just mentioned a movie, and instead of being like, well, you know, speaking of, you're just like, all right, I'm going to talk about Aladdin. You know what Jackson said, movie word? Well, it's time to talk about movies.
I was going to say something along the lines of, speaking of movies that I didn't really want to watch.
But then, instead you just said, I'm going to transition.
Okay. You got to announce these things. But yeah, Fault in Our Stars, never a movie I wanted to go see. I knew it was not my scene, and that's fine. You know, movies are allowed to exist that are not catering toward me. And I saw Aladdin.
Not trying to front, but when that movie came out, everybody told me I looked like the main character from it.
Oof.
And I didn't really see it, but I think 16-year-old me probably looked not too dissimilar from 16-year-old Ansel Elgort. I mean, I have different eyes and facial structure, but I think we just had like curly hair and like a similar like expression.
You don't look that much like him at all.
Yeah, I mean, again, this movie was a while back. But yeah, everyone told me that, and I never really saw it.
I don't even see it.
Apparently, a whole bunch of other people did.
Young Jackson, he's not blonde enough.
I didn't either, but everyone would tell me that.
I don't know. I feel like it's the same people that were convinced Jeff and McCain looked like each other just because they both had long hair.
Because they had long hair. Yeah. A curly hair guy who's sensitive. Must be same. But I think, I don't know. Also, that's not like the best. Not to say he's unattractive, because he's attractive.
Yeah.
But if someone's gonna like, that's not like a high compliment for someone to pay you. So like, they weren't saying it just to be nice. Like they genuinely meant it. Because like, if someone tells you look like Brad Pitt, they're just trying to like flatter you.
Right.
If someone tells you look like the kid from A Fault in Our Stars, no offense, man, but he's not a 10.
That's all that they mean.
Yeah, he wasn't like a stone cold looker. All right, you can go off and tell your Aladdin story now. I'm done.
So my Aladdin story, nothing like super impressed me with it. Every minute that Will Smith was not on screen was a minute wasted. And for a 2 hour and 10 minute movie, that was far too many minutes. I didn't enjoy the musical numbers. And this is a really dumb thing to think, but every time that they sang, because of the drastic difference between their speaking voice and their singing voice, like in volume, it just made me unhappy. It's the dumbest thing to complain about.
Oh, I thought you were going to say they sounded like different people.
No.
Because like, that's like when I found out that Zac Efron didn't actually sing in High School Musical.
Oh, he didn't?
That broke my heart. No, he didn't.
Oh my gosh, I thought he did.
I know. I thought so too. For years. And then do you remember when I used to own the soundtrack?
Yeah.
On the back of it, it's like all the people who sang in it, Zac Efron's not on there. Like it's like Troy, and then like it had the guy's name who was singing Troy's parts.
Oh my gosh.
So apparently he was just lip syncing.
Interesting. It's one of those things, I know they never sing along live anyway, but it always throws me when it's not the actor, because it's not like, it's not a thing anymore. It was a thing back in the day, you know?
But well, have you ever seen like the recordings, like when they do the take that they use for the film?
No.
Because like a lot of the times the actor is singing, but like they're not like trying to like sing all the notes right, and they're not like, you know, there's no accompaniment. They're just like singing to keep themselves like reminded of like the pace the song goes at and like the moves they're doing.
Yeah.
So like there's like audio clips out there, like outtakes from musicals where it's just like people just like singing a cappella, like fairly shittily, doing all the dance moves. It's pretty funny.
That actually sounds like a really good time.
And funnily enough, the one that comes to mind that I think of is the Summertime song from High School Musical 2. The What Time Is It? Like there's a version of that where it's like the outtake.
Nice.
Where they're all singing as they're recording, but they're not. The music's not playing.
See, stuff like that always just reminds me of that one behind the scenes clip from Logan, watching Hugh Jackman just in this tiny little room run in place and grunt while he watches the movie so that they could track his like fighting noises. And I will always love that video. It's fantastic.
I thought Logan didn't have any fighting in it. I didn't watch it, but
oh no, it's a pretty violent movie. It's
okay. It was just sad.
It is very sad. It holds up too. I love it a lot, but it's a very heavy movie. But there's a lot of death too. But Aladdin has no death in it. I don't know why Dan was talking about. Now I feel like Dan maybe I don't want to call him out while he's not here, but I'm going to do it anyway. I feel like Dan threw around the term racist at Jafar a little too flippantly, because Jafar was talking about invading a neighboring country.
We just call that.
I don't think that was racism.
Imperialist.
I think that was, because his whole character was just, oh, I just want to take over everything. I want power. I don't think that's racist. I think that's just being a dick.
Yeah, that's just called being England. You know how many properties, I guess is a weird way to put it, but you know how many sovereign states have been created from the Empire of England?
Yeah, all of them.
Since my dad was born.
Oh, since your dad? Yeah. No,
you know how many nations
crazy.
have come out of England's control? Take a guess.
It's over 100, right?
No, this is since my dad was born.
Oh, since your dad was born.
Not total, yeah. Since my dad was born in 1956.
Is it more than 20?
Take a guess. Just the guess number.
I want to guess like 17.
45.
Oh my gosh.
45 independent states. And that is, granted, a lot of them are smaller island nations, but a lot of them are countries you very well are aware of.
Yeah.
I don't know if Jordan was before him or after him, but Jordan was around the time of his birth. Libya is one of them. Zimbabwe. There's a Swaziland is one. A lot of like African nations actually, and a lot of island nations.
Now, I know this is probably
technically
wrong, but
Australia.
Hong Kong was one as well, wasn't it?
1997. That's the latest one.
Crazy.
To my knowledge. Now, granted, I may be off on some of the numbers or some like the names of the countries here, but I think I'm pretty much spot on.
Yeah.
Because I was just curious the other day, and I was looking on Wikipedia, and I was scrolling through this giant list, and I started counting them. And then I started counting them since after my dad was born, because
that's kind of how I keep things in check.
Yeah, because like a lot of times when people will say things, you know, like things are so far removed from us.
Yeah.
I just like I'm like let's see. I was born in 1997, sure. So things are pretty far removed from me outside of Hong Kong, which I was alive for. Maybe I wasn't actually.
I was.
You were. I may have missed it because I was born in February, but if it was in January, I missed it. But there's a chance.
That's crazy.
So anyway, I like to look at it for my dad's birthday and see what's been going on. And I've mentioned this before on the podcast. My dad was 8 when segregation ended.
I was gonna say, I remember you saying that he lived in an area that was still heavily segegregated for a long time, even though
not really heavily segregated, right? Just because heavily white.
Oh, okay.
Okay. We live in the same area. It's we looked at the numbers. It's 90% for the suburbs.
I wasn't sure if he grew up around here or not.
Yeah, he grew up in on a farm out in nowhere land. Mm-hmm. So he went to one of those one room schoolhouse deal kind of things.
Okay.
It wasn't a crazy competition. But he was still 8 years old when segregation ended. Mm-hmm. Which means he was walking and talking and reading at the time that we weren't allowed to go to the same school as people of a different race.
And that's insane. That's insane to me.
45 territories have come out from English rule since my dad was born. So when people say stuff like, oh, imperialism, colonialism is so far behind us, and not really. Mm-hmm. Not really at all.
I looked up once because I was getting sick of people talking about, America needs to mind its own business, yada, 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 which I'm not going to say it doesn't, but
it depends on the issue. Mm-hmm. If it's funding paramilitary death squads,
that can stop that. That can stop real hard.
It doesn't though.
No. But I remember looking up just because I wanted to try and prove a point how long the British Empire was around, and I tried to throw that at some people. I'm like, yo, the British Empire has been around for a very, very long time. Still around to a point to this day, and no one talks about that over here.
Yeah,
and they're like, what's your point? I'm like, I'm saying America in its entirety is younger than the entire British Empire. We're still a tiny baby nation to a point. We're still making some mistakes. It's just how things work.
Yeah. Oh, I think on a world stage level, there's more of there's a higher level of we're held to a higher standard, mm-hmm. and for good reason. I mean, we should be because at this point society has progressed so far. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times when people did shitty stuff back then, it was just because they were like, hey, we can do shitty stuff, right? And everyone was like, yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. But now everyone's like, you know what? We shouldn't do shitty stuff anymore. And everyone's like, yeah, you're right. Let's talk about that. And then UN.
Boom.
And North Korea is still there, though.
We're working on it.
Hanging out.
Eventually, something about that will clear up. Right, guys?
Yeah, they'll probably be all right. I mean, how long can they go on? But we've been asking that question for years.
It's honestly, though.
Right now, they're running on willpower and a dream, comrades. You know what? The day of recording is today. All Might's birthday.
Whose birthday?
All Might.
All Might's birthday.
It's today. Yeah.
Really?
June 10th. Yeah. Take a look behind the curtain, guys. It's June 10th. All Might's birthday. So happy birthday, All Might. Awkward to say, but the only reason I remember that is because I was running the dates in my head because I know the Tiananmen Square ordeal. Mm-hmm. Was very recent as well. I think it was the 4th of June. And I was like, that wasn't today. That was last week. And then I was like, oh, my birthday's today, though.
I hope you don't make me look like an idiot because I just posted that in the Discord.
That's true. But, the Tiananmen Square riots where infamously the Chinese government will tell us consistently that nothing happened. So don't worry about it. That's obviously a joke. It's a terrible tragedy and massacre of their own population that should be remembered. Especially going on the 30th anniversary, or especially having remembered the 30th anniversary of it recently. I
actually am incredibly surprised that I didn't hear about that.
Tiananmen Square?
Yeah.
I'll look up the date, but I'm pretty sure it was the 4th or maybe the 6th. It was last week for sure. Mm-hmm. It was before All Might's birthday. Also, in case you guys didn't know, I share a birthday with Sue from My Hero Academia. So me and Froppy have the same birthday.
I feel like you've put in way too much work to knowing something about an anime that you don't excessively care for.
Well, every time you see one of those transitions, he puts a picture of the person and puts their birthday down.
Oh, yeah.
And there's 10 of them for All Might and 10 of them for Sue. Actually, I don't think there's that many for Sue, but whenever I see it, I'm like, hey, that's my birthday. Yeah, it was 1989. Let me find the date here. And... yeah, 4th of June. I was right. No, it was from the 15th of April to the 4th of June, so it was over a series of time, but it ended on the 4th of June with, the massacres.
Bakugo's birthday is 4/20. That's fantastic.
Hell yeah, dude. Blaze it, buddy.
Oh, well. Doesn't look like I share a birthday with anybody, but that's fine. To hop back to Aladdin real quick, though, to finish up my thought on that.
Go for it. Yeah, we'll stop talking about imperialism for the time being.
Just for now. Yeah, any minute that Will Smith wasn't on screen was a little tedious. I think that every character was good, but I didn't like Aladdin. Jasmine was fine. Jafar was okay, but any second Will Smith wasn't on screen was a bad second. The musical numbers that he was involved in, though, A+. Very, very good. The other ones, much like the original Aladdin, didn't care for him. Left the theater realizing, hey, this movie was definitely not for me.
Yeah, I did like your tweet, though, about like your ironic tweet about how dare these kids go see Aladdin.
Right?
That's pretty good.
Those kids had the nerve to march in there and be loud and do kid stuff. But I stand by the fact that the kid that said, "Mommy, I'm scared of him," was amazing. Because right after
was
the
he talking
genie,
about Aladdin?
huh? Yeah, no, the genie.
He was scared of the genie.
Oh yeah, he had just done like a bunch of popping around, doing all kinds of fun stuff, and the kid's just like, "Mom, I'm scared of him."
So, not my story. Story of my favorite boy who I have plugged so many times in the show, Northern Lion.
I was wondering if you were about to say Northern Lion.
Ryan Gary Letourneau.
Right.
But one of my favorite stories of his that people spam at him in chat all the time is he says he was like 3 or 4. It went to his first movie in the theater, and it was The Addams Family. And there's a scene where like the hand like comes crawling at the screen. Mm-hmm. And he says at 4 years old, he like got up and like ran to his dad and said, "Don't hurt me, I'm Ryan." As if like his 4-year-old brain was like, if I identify myself to the creature, I become a human to it and it can no longer do damage to me. He was like, once it knows that I'm Ryan, we'll be friends.
Oh my god.
So whenever he does anything where he like gets spooked by a game or is like, anytime chat feels like it, everyone just spams, "Don't hurt me, I'm Ryan."
I love it.
And it's just very funny to me.
That makes me incredibly happy.
A 4-year-old saying, "Don't hurt me, I'm Ryan."
That's honestly, it's a super wholesome story too.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like a cute little kid story, and it's funny, but then you also feel bad for the kid. But it's the Addams Family. He probably got over it.
Speaking of the Addams Family, what are your thoughts on the new movie coming out?
I didn't even know there was one.
Oh yeah, it's in the style of the old like comic strip that it was based off. Apparently, everyone looks a little whack to me, but I'm not super familiar with that old comic strip, so.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never really been too into the Addams Family. I'm familiar with it. I think I watched like a movie or two when I was a kid.
Oh really?
But I'm not like a huge fan or anything.
I like it a lot. I just enjoy watching it. It's a good time. I like the TV show. The movies were okay. It's that same.
I didn't know there was a TV show.
Oh yeah, it's OG, way back in the day. But I don't know. I feel like it's one of those cool things that it's a little slice of like horror culture that a lot of people can appreciate, rather than just like, oh hi guys, I'm sitting down, I'm watching my borderline snuff film tonight. It's called
you know what I liked? You know what I liked a lot? The Munsters.
I never watched The Munsters.
I remember that fondly. I think my dad used to be a big fan of it. So we had him on like the old like DVD or like VHS tapes. I remember watching him as a kid. Pretty good.
Nice.
Pretty fun. I think it's a very similar premise to the Addams Family, where it's just like a family of monsters lives in a house.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, I think
and like hijinks ensue as like their neighbors like come over and like I don't remember if they like tried to
scary people.
I don't remember if they tried to hide the fact that they were monsters or if they were like just totally open about it and their neighbors were just like, oh, these weird people. But like it took place in the 50s and like it was made in the 50s. So like their neighbors was like these like your classic like cheery 50s families.
Oh yeah, and
they would just like interact with them. Yeah, and I don't know. I don't remember it too well, but I remember like all the family members being different kinds of monsters. Like the mom was a vampire and the dad was like Frankenstein.
Yeah,
but then the kids were 2 totally different monsters as well. Like there was no like rhyme or reason as to like why they were the monsters they were. They were just all monsters.
I remember that. I remember seeing like a few clips of the Munsters, but you know, my family, we were more of a Addams Family.
I think the Addams Family was a little bit more spooky, and the Munsters was a little bit more like
kooky?
Silly. Yeah, it was more kooky, less spooky, and the Addams Family was more spooky, less kooky. Although both were kooky and spooky. It's fair to say.
I was trying to remember the lyrics to the Addams Family song right now.
They're creepy and they're kooky, and mysterious and spooky. I don't think I got it all right, but
kooky, the Addams Family, something like that.
Yeah, we got it.
Close enough. High five.
Yeah, we'll take those. I didn't participate in that.
I know. I high five myself.
That was a homeschooled high five.
Oof. Where's the line though?
I did. That's one of my favorite bits that I got from my sister. And it's basically like if you go for a high five and no one like picks it up, you be like, all right, homeschooled, and then you just like clap your own hand. Good. High five. And they're like, nope. I'm like, I homeschooling it. And you're like, you just high five yourself. Which every time I want to tell like a public school anecdote, I just am reminded that you and Dan are both homeschooled.
I know, right?
I just feel like we need to drag in a couple more like every once in a while like a guest who's here just because they went to public school.
You know, I was trying to find some sort of guest for tonight just because there wasn't it was just the two of us, and I kept forgetting to ask people, but that could have been your moment.
I hadn't thought about it either.
Yeah, Dan,
sorry.
Shout out to Dan for trying to be responsible and reminding us last week. But then, you know, shout
out to me for not listening.
Yeah, also shout out to me for not listening because I'm sitting here.
Okay, to be fair,
and the other night
I listened. Like, hey, I just didn't act.
Right? The other day he was just like, by the way, I'm not around this week. I'll be back on I think he's back tomorrow night, something like that. And I'm just like, excuse me? Why didn't you remind me? And he's like, I did when we were recording. And I'm like, oh no.
Got him. Unless he was lying. Run back to recordings. Give me those recordings. Give me the tapes.
Run back the tapes, everyone.
Give me the Poughkeepsie tapes.
We're all the
yeah, I did it. Now. I don't even want to watch that whatever movie that was. You said it was gross.
Yeah, it was a little uncomfortable. I liked it, but I don't want to watch it again anytime soon.
Fair enough. So before we get to rounding this off, I want to talk about something I forgot to talk about when I was mentioning fighting games, because I got wrapped up in the whole fighting game scene. But another thing about summer for me is it got to be esports. Because by the time this airs, hockey season's over. Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals is a Wednesday night. I don't know how it's going to go. I'm kind of hoping Boston. I'm kind of hoping St. Louis. I don't have a horse in that race. Good for them. But I am a big esports fan, as I've mentioned before. And sports are kind of winding down. I think the NBA Finals are finishing up too. I don't know how it's going right now. I know it's Toronto and Golden State. Numbers would say Golden State, but you got to hope for my Canadian boys. That's the finals for the NBA. Mm-hmm. And baseball is going on, but baseball has so many games that no one really cares that much about every game. So
I don't know, dude. I got some people here who, my coworker specifically, who's very angry that I don't watch the games because he needs someone to talk to about it.
See, oh my God, that's a huge ant. Think I got it? Holy shit, I don't know if I got it. Sorry, there was a giant ant on my desk. That was very scary.
Oh,
huge.
I hate those.
Huge. I hate that. I hope I got it. If not, it's going to kill me in my sleep. Sports, for the most part, kind of winding down, at least the ones I care about, which is namely just hockey. But winding up is esports. Mm-hmm. The spring split is over for League of Legends, and we're into the summer split now. And great news, I don't believe I got to talk about it in the last recording, because I think we recorded, we were a bit ahead of schedule. So I don't believe we talked at all about MSI, or the mid-season invitational, which is kind of like the world championship that they have at the end of the year, but just in the middle. They invite the top team from every region, and they have a little round robin, and then they put the top 4 in a bracket, and then those 4 fight it out, and then there's a winner. And Noah, take a guess as to who won.
Oh, geez. I don't even know any of the teams, so I'm going to say not the American one.
Not team-wise, but region.
Oh,
so I'll give you a helping hand. Germany's not a region, but I like that. So I'll give you the region. I'm gonna give you a handout here.
Okay.
So the 4 regions that made it into the bracket, I believe Vietnam fell, and so did I think Vietnam and Taiwan. I think were the other two that made it, and they fell out. Of the pools. But the bracket was China, Korea, Europe, and North America. So the first round.
Well, I know it wasn't North America.
Wait, yeah, I'm gonna run the first round of the bracket through. I want you to give me your numbers. So first round was North American Team Liquid, and they were against Chinese team Invictus Gaming, mm-hmm. who is they won the world championship last year. So they had won. They were the previous world champion.
Okay.
Take a guess. It's best of 5. Take a guess as to how that played out.
They lost.
Who's they? One of them lost. Yes.
I spaced real hard. I apologize so much.
Okay, you're good.
Who were the two teams again that did best of 5?
Basically, the world championship team lost 3-1 to the North American team.
What? No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, that's impossible.
The largest upset in League of Legends history.
The North American team
beat the reigning world champion 3-1. And it wasn't necessarily because the world champions, they were not off their game. They weren't at their peak, I would say. But they weren't playing terribly. They lost in a fair and square 5-game series. Mm-hmm. And they only won 1 out of the 5 games. Or they only won once.
That's rough.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And then the other one was the 3-time world championship, SK Telecom, the 3-time world champion, SK Telecom, versus the European team G2 Esports. And that went to game 5, and G2 Esports won.
Oh.
So Europe beat the best team in Korea and the 3-time world championship winning team. So in the finals, it was North America versus Europe for the first time ever. Like in the 10 years of League of Legends existing, that's never happened before.
Yeah.
And both teams won fairly convincingly. And it was a fair and square. It wasn't like a fluke. So they both have, like, both regions have very good teams this year. And the European team absolutely dominated North America 3-0. But that's all right, because I've mentioned it before. I watch the European games more than the North American ones, mostly because it aligns with my sleep schedule better, and also because I like that the North American teams have a lot of imports. Like, for example, the team that we went to was a finalist, Team Liquid. They have their top laners from Korea, their supports from Korea, and their mid laners from Denmark, I want to say.
Yeah.
So they only have 2 members on their team that are actually from North America. The other 3 are imported from other regions. And whereas the European team G2, all 5 of them are from Europe.
And honestly, so, like, that's a really good reason to like embrace the European team. Yeah,
exactly. Because then you're saying, like, go Europe. You're not saying go team who had a lot of money and imported good players. I mean, I still, you root for North America. And the European team that made it wasn't even like my favorite team. They're probably like my number 3 team out of the region. But it'd be like if your rival high school goes to like the national finals. Like, even though they beat you and you usually have a feud with them, because they're at the national finals, you got their back at that point. Of course, you were homeschooled, so
Yeah, well, we still had
rival schools,
rival families,
your neighbor's house,
rival families.
Go egg your neighbor's house. So yeah, it's very exciting, and most everyone is saying, myself included, that this European team G2 is the best in the world right now. They was pretty convincing. They are pretty good, and I'm excited for what that means for Worlds. I don't know if they'll win Worlds or if they'll go super far even, but it's a very impressive showing for MSI, and it just is leaving a lot of people excited. Plus, it led to one of my favorite Twitch coffee pastas, which was everyone just spammed the speech from Lord of the Rings where Aragorn says, "Stand, men of the West." So everyone was just saying, like, I see on your face the same fear I felt those many moons ago or whatever. It was a good time. It was a good spirited time. Plus, as a European fan, now I don't have to deal with constant shit talking from people who like the Korean and Chinese teams. So that's the big happenings in that esports scene. If you care about League of Legends, I know people tend to really hate it who don't play it.
It's true,
which is weird to me, because like you have like people who either like play Dota and they think League is the worst game of all time, even though they're ostensibly very similar, and I enjoy both for different reasons. And then you have your people who played League and then stopped for whatever reason and are now convinced it's the dumbest and worst game of all time, which I don't really get. Like, it's a video game.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get that, because like I'm not the biggest League fan, and honestly it's just mostly because I'm just not good at it. But I don't know. It has a pretty rough community, but its community isn't any worse than a good number of other game communities I can think of.
Yeah.
And
like, honestly, I haven't really dealt with anyone I've had a problem with in months. Like, I haven't been made mad by someone else in the game in like a year, because I only ever play with my friends, because it's just way more fun that way. And then if someone starts like being annoying on the enemy team, I just mute them. And then that's the end of it. So I don't really get why people are like so quick to call everything like toxic and terrible, when there are wonderful tools to deal with things you find toxic and or terrible. Same with all games, though. But I think like the League and Dota thing is very similar to like Halo and Call of Duty.
Everyone has like an incredibly firm decision that their game is better.
Yeah. I never really got that. Same with like the console wars. But honestly, think about the console wars. People who say PlayStation is better than Xbox, huge brain, big brain, genius boys. People say Xbox better than PlayStation, normal brain, fine boys. People who say PC is better than both, tiny pea brain idiot heads. Because I have very rarely ever used my PC for the same thing I use my PlayStation for.
Really?
They're 2 totally different devices. Like, the PlayStation I use for a lot of, PC exclusive games and more like Steam-based, kind of like only available on PC games that are good with friends, and it browses the internet. I use my PlayStation to play things like Horizon Zero Dawn, Persona 5. It's good for Street Fighter and fighting games because it's got a really active community on the PlayStation, because it's, Japanese. So it has a lot of those games that you can't get on Xbox.
Yeah.
So I've never once been like, I'll take my throughout my PlayStation, I got a new PC. Like I have a fairly high-end gaming PC, and when I had it, I still bought a PlayStation 4 because it offers so many different things. And like to use your computer, you got to be sitting at a desk with a keyboard and mouse. I can just lay in my bed and turn on my TV and like watch anime on my PlayStation.
Honestly, I've been thinking similar things because, I mean, we've been talking about like Persona 5 Royal coming out, and I am really excited to get a PS4 just so I can play through that game.
Yeah, and exactly. Like it's the exclusives to me are the reason to get the console, as well as the convenience of having something that you don't need to have a whole bunch of peripheries to use. Because like my PC, I love it, and like if you had to make me give up that or my PS4, my PS4 is going to the trash. But they're not in competition. It's like saying that you like Subway, so you'll never go to McDonald's. Like you can say I prefer Subway to McDonald's, but there's no reason to block both out when they offer different things. You can't get French fries at Subway. True. So whenever people bring PCs into like the console wars, it's because they've probably never owned a console. Or think they're for something very different. But if someone ever does say that consoles are better than PCs, that's also the peest of brains, microscopic doo-doo head opinion.
Like, you're allowed to like one more than the other, but like straight facts, you can't try and say that it's better. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would take PlayStation over Xbox, but that's me, just because I like weeb shit. And the PlayStation is great for weeb shit because there's a whole bunch of it that you can't get on any other consoles, including PC. And like that's another thing. Like Switches and like Nintendo consoles have always been outside of that argument, you know. And I think PlayStation and Xbox are also nowadays outside of that argument.
Yeah, I'm not sure where the argument continues to exist anymore.
I'm not really either. Because there's always just been such a different scene in both. Like, you have a PC and you play Counter-Strike, or you have a console and you play Call of Duty. Like, they're just different games for different people who want different things. But Nintendo, for whatever reason, has always like marketed themselves away from that debacle. No one's ever trying to say like their Wii is better than a PC or an Xbox or a PlayStation. They're just saying, yo, I got a Wii, who wants to play Smash? And everyone's like, oh, that sounds like fun. I don't know. I think Nintendo definitely played that smart then.
Yeah, for sure.
And I am of the opinion that they are all separate beasts.
That's one. We need to be wrapping up now, so this will be like my last thing to say on it. But that's one of the things that I feel like I could tell that I'd finally like grown up and stopped being such like a punk kid, because I am willing to acknowledge that stuff like that, like you can like both things and it's fine. I feel like that's an important step to make. I don't know.
Yeah, but then you don't want to take it too far and become the truest invertebrate of all, the American centrist. Like, not, name and name. It's not a name I would know. But I was talking to some of my friends the other day, and one of them, a dude I don't consider a friend, but he was just kind of there. Like he's like in the Discord, so he joins sometimes and starts talking. Yeah. And like he made a joke about like trans people, and I like spoke up and I was like, "Yo, man, that's fucked up and not true. And here's like what's wrong with that, and here's why I'm upset." And not everyone, but he was like, yo, like it's just us. Like it doesn't matter. Yeah, and he basically took the stance of like, I just people shouldn't be offended by it. And I was like, you are just the worst person. Because like if I'm walking down the street and someone makes a joke about trans people, I'll be like, that's a fucking asshole, and just keep walking because I don't care. Yeah. But like if one of my friends or someone I associate with does, then I care because I'm like, this is a person that I know can and should be better. Yeah. And I'm going to talk to him about how.
Because that's like the reason that you associate yourself with people, is because like, I don't know, I feel like anymore I try to associate myself with people that make me better and that I can, without like putting in heavy work on my end, feel like make them better, make me better kind of thing.
Exactly. And I think that's really important. And moral of the story is, after like only about 10 minutes of discussion, everyone stopped talking about it and admitted that I was right. And then 2 days later, he is banned from the Discord server because everyone agreed he was a toxic influence.
You know what? I respect that.
So we take that as a victory. Happy Pride Month, guys.
There you go.
I was like, I'm not like...
I forgot what day it was for a second. I was really nervous that Pride Month would be over by the time this episode goes up. But it will be nowhere near over.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're like not even halfway through. Although it is, as I mentioned, July 10th earlier, or June 10th earlier, It's June 11th now, guys. It's past midnight.
Hot dang. And
So
that means it's time for me to go to bed.
Yeah, we probably should be going. I have to work tomorrow morning.
Me too.
I think Noah has to work tomorrow morning. And we should be going to bed.
So yeah, you know what? Fun episode though.
Fun episode. Talked about video games. Yeah. Talked about social justice of varying degrees, from imperialism to social activism. And fighting game, as my man Tohito said, fighting game is something really great.
You know what? That's a good quote to end on.
He's Japanese. He doesn't speak English fluently, but he said that in English, so good for him. It was very, very kind after he won EVO 2017, and then everybody cried.
Did everyone stand up and clap?
Not everybody cried, but James, I think James Chen, the announcer for Street Fighter for the top 8, he cried. He's like, why do you have to say that? He's a nice boy. Tokito's a good boy. Anyway, my name's Jackson. You can find me on the internet at Jacksonium most places. That's pretty much it. Sometimes with 2 M's, sometimes with 1 M. Leave it up to your heart to decide. Noah, how about you?
Well, I'm Noah. You can find me as Bubba the Bad, BUBBADABAD. I'm on all your favorite social medias, probably. Maybe not.
All of them.
You know,
even Flickr.
I actually did have a Flickr account for a little while.
Why?
Because I didn't know what it was and I wanted to find out, so I made an account and realized it wasn't anything I needed.
Yeah, what is? Isn't it just like flip albums?
I think it's just photo hosting.
Yeah, it's just like it's like Instagram, but you can't say anything and you have to post multiple photos.
Yep, pretty much.
That sounds terrible.
It's pretty bad. I didn't like it. Yeah, and then the podcast you can find on Facebook.com/OTA podcast, Twitter.com/TheOffTheAir, and Patreon.com/OffTheAir. We have a YouTube channel. You can find that in the show notes. And if you would do us a solid and just give us a review on iTunes or your favorite listening site, it really helps us in the metrics, so to speak. So, yeah. Thank you very much for listening, everyone.
The imperial measurements, too. Like the feet.
Dan, do you have anything you want to say?
Dan's not here. We still got to talk about feet. Dan's not here.
I guess he has nothing to say then.
Yeah, I guess not.
Adios, everyone. See you next week.
Goodbye.